Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So I guess part of this week and last week I kind of had a bit of a hiccup in terms of posting as well as with drawing, but I think I'm okay now, and thank you guys very much for understanding that I was kind of taking a break, or I needed a break from drawing for a little bit. So yeah, but I think we're on track now. I decided to switch up Monday's video and Wednesday's video for this week just because of timing. But today is a Sketchbook Doodles video, so I am going to be filling up 3 spreads again with a kind of like set color palette per character. So I decided to do spreads of 3 Genshin characters. I decided to pick Gorou, Fischl and Albedo. So as you saw me, I did show you guys the 3 different kind of like color palettes that I decided to choose this time. I definitely think I did a better job choosing a color palette for Fischl and Albedo, and a part of my reasoning is because Gorou's spread came out a little bit weird. I ran into a problem which I kind of forgot about, which is the fact that my Crayola super tips are slowly running out. I usually use the peach and light pinks a lot to do kind of like a lot of my pastel spreads, and I do a lot of like pink and blue spreads, or like the teal and peach color a lot when I'm doodling. So a lot of those colors have been drying out a lot recently. Luckily I was able to kind of swap between 2 markers, but unfortunately both of them were running out around the same time, so I wasn't able to do a full color for Gorou's hair or his tail, or even part of like the armor where he has a little bit more of like red areas. In terms of the color palettes that I chose, so let's talk about Gorou's first. I decided to pick obviously the peach color because it kind of is almost like a lighter brown color, which kind of works out. I don't like picking colors that are too similar in value, if that makes sense. I like to pick one that's a little bit more of a bolder color. You can see here actually that I did a lot of trial and error trying to pick a palette. So I usually pick up like little scrap pieces of paper that I've either cut from watercolor sheets or cardstock from sketchbook making in the past. So I use those scraps to kind of do a little bit of swatches before I do a spread, because usually I would scribble on the same page, but because I did the sketches prior, I decided I wanted to match the colors more appropriately instead of kind of experimenting. Similar to the ones of, I think the one I did last week probably. So I did doodles of Masaki, Toma, and then Ayaka, and one of Ayato. So they did have kind of like set color palettes, but these ones were a little bit more tailored towards the character, if that makes sense. So you can see that compared to the beginning, I actually swapped out the fine liner that I was using, which was more of a kind of a dark burgundy color, for this kind of gray color. In a sense, I kind of like it, but part of me kind of wish I kept the burgundy color. I think it would have made the spread a little bit more vibrant, and because I'm lacking the vibrancy from the peachish, like, I guess it's like a peach color, I'm not really fond of the spread. I think the green stands out really nicely. I tried to pick a green that wasn't like a pure green. It's kind of almost teal-ish or turquoise, because Gorou kind of has more of a blue-green to his whole attire. So yeah, but I don't have like a color that matches directly that is not going to compete with the peach color at this point, because the peach is very faded and very splotchy. I think any color probably would have worked, but I definitely think the line work helped a lot. I definitely tried to push values a lot more into this spread compared to the other ones, for 2 reasons. Because 1, I was losing a lot of detail from not being able to use the peach color as nicely, and then 2 was because I think I didn't realize how much space was not being taken up by color, so I decided to fill it up with lines instead. So I do a lot of hatching and just filling in of the spaces, and I did my best to add a little bit more detail into some areas like his armor or any of the gold pieces, so we can add a little bit of texture. Otherwise, I think the spread for Gorou would have looked a little bit too empty. I think out of the 3 that I did, Gorou still remains quite empty, but I think partially because the way I formatted the page, as well as the color choices where the marker really ran out, especially for this third doodle. He looks very blank. I'm glad the one that's kind of more in the front has a little bit more color. It kind of works out a little bit better because your eyes are drawn more to the bigger one, hopefully. But yeah, so a lot of you guys actually suggested different markers for me to use, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit. So I was recommended Tombow markers, so this was a very popular choice. I asked for people to suggest any marker sets that you would think would be suitable for like doodling in my sketchbook and stuff, that is leaning towards like the pastel sets that doesn't have like a full like a big range of colors, because I don't really want to commit to a set that's so large, because the Crayola Super Tips does cover a good amount of colors, but it does lack in the pastel department, like a lot of watermarkers do. So yeah, a lot of you guys suggested me to check out the Tombow markers. Now, I've been eyeing the Tombow markers for a long time. I think currently, now that I'm recording this, actually I need to double check, but let's talk about the issue with it. I don't know if it's because I'm in Canada or it's just the timing of it. It's kind of on the expensive side for me. The last time I checked, I think it was $35, like 35 Canadian for a pack of, I think it's 10 markers. So that's quite expensive. But the last time I checked, which was like this morning, I think it dropped to 25. It might have, or 20. Yeah, I think 25. So maybe I'll snag it if I can. We'll see. Another suggestion was to check out the Ohuhu. So when I was doing a bit of browsing of the Tombow markers, I did stumble across this, but I've never heard anyone really talk about these markers, like the water-based ones. I know they're alcohol markers, and yeah, I think just their alcohol markers are super duper popular and more well known. So I wasn't actually aware that they did water-based markers, and it looks like they do have a pastel set. So it is a little bit cheaper. I think it's between 20 to 25 as well, so it's on par with the same price with the Tombow at the Tombow's current discount, I think. So I might look in to either of the sets. Someone did recommend Ecoline as well. I checked it, and I don't know if it's available on the Canadian Amazon that I'm on, because I found one set, I think, and it's like $135. So that's definitely not an option for me, but I do appreciate that you guys were suggesting a bunch of different markers for me to try out. I think in the future, if I continue to use the Super Crayola tips, Crayola Super Tips, I am going to probably just repurchase a new set eventually. At this point, I'm not going to. I've only had maybe 5 markers run out. I had one kind of like mold or crystallized, so that might check that one out. So yeah, I think I only had 5 or like 4 or 5 markers that have fully or pretty much run out. But a lot of the other colors are quite juicy and still have very much a lot of ink, so I am not going to replace them. Let's talk about the spread a little bit, the second spread. So I decided to draw Fischl because I don't draw her that often. I was not feeling as confident drawing Oz, and I knew if I drew Oz, it might throw me back into the loop of being kind of like burnt out art blocky-ish mood that I was kind of in for the last like week and a half. It was mostly burnout, but I definitely didn't want to spend too much time trying to figure out bird anatomy on a sketchbook doodle spread. In the future, I think I would like to do more of a deep dive into animals, but I might do that digitally and just keep like a whole catalog of my stuff and not have to do it in my sketchbook, just for kind of like keeping progress sake. In terms of this sketchbook, so if you're new, I guess, this sketchbook is actually a notebook, and I did design it by myself, but I got the company Vograce to help do the actual bookmaking. So yeah, it is a notebook. It is A5, and I've been really rough with this sketchbook in terms of the cover kind of having the print come off a lot, because I work diagonally so often, so it's always rubbing up against the edge of my desk, which is kind of scraping the spine and sometimes the front of the cover. So apologies if my sketchbook is looking a little bit janky. So in terms of my sketchbook, how to explain progress? So I actually have my sketchbook right in front of me right now, so I'm trying to see visually how much I have left. I think I'm still at a third left of the sketchbook. This sketchbook or notebook actually has quite a few pages compared to my previous ones. So yeah, this one feels a lot longer that I've been working on it, but I feel like I've also made a lot of progress in it. I've been trying my best to do a little bit more of like more posing, more full bodies, less headshots in this. I don't know, but I think that also stopped me from drawing as much 17 recently. I think it's also because of the burnout that was like slowly arising, that I actually haven't been drawing 17 that much. I think by the time the sketchbook tour comes out, this sketchbook's gonna be pretty much maybe 80% Genshin-ish. For the most part, I definitely went like fully into it just because I really do enjoy drawing the characters. The details are fun. Playing with the colors is also very much fun. So I've been doing that a lot. I think in previous sketchbooks you would have saw that I drew a lot. Like I mean a lot of 17. I think 17 and OCs is what I've drawn the most. And then this sketchbook is mostly, I would say like, yeah, maybe 75% Genshin, 15% OCs. I think that's how I can divvy it up. And then the last remaining kind of percentage is just maybe 17. I don't know. There is some like random stuff that I have in here, but it's not very much. Like I said, I treat my sketchbook more nowadays like just comfort zone drawing. I think before I did a lot more like, I don't know. I think the way how I'm treating my sketchbook is kind of a little bit different, but the content doesn't really change in terms of I'm just drawing what I enjoy for the most part. But I think the way how I've been like approaching my sketchbook has been different. I think the last few ones that I've done in the past, I've definitely been a little bit more rushing into it to get like a sketchbook tour out, or just because I feel so done with the sketchbook that I want to move on. And I'm the type that, I guess it's more recently that I feel like I need to finish the sketchbook in order to move on rather than just being able to start a new one. In the past, I've been so like, I think a lot of people are like this, or like when you're starting out with drawing, especially like when you're younger, you don't fill the sketchbook like to the max amount of like page real estate, I guess you could put it that way. But I think it's also because like we don't have the drive to complete the sketchbook, right? You're kind of just doodling for fun. Whatever comes out of it comes out of it. But definitely at some point from my previous sketchbooks, I've definitely tried my best to fill the sketchbook like really full, really jam-packed, making sure that spreads look nice and trying to get it done in a timely manner. I think if you looked at my past ones, and I usually start the video off with like, this sketchbook took me, let's say like 6 months to do, and I'll say like, oh, this is longer than usual, this is shorter than usual. And I honestly think it doesn't really matter. I think me phrasing it that way isn't really great. I think I should just approach it that, you know, I finally finished the sketchbook and it's time to start a new one so I can start more drawing and just like exploration into stuff. But yeah, I definitely want to go back and do a bit more painting in the sketchbook. I think what's lovely about keeping a sketchbook and kind of keeping it for a bit of a longer period of time, or even like short period of time, you could probably still see the same progression, but seeing pages being worn out or like beveled or like teared or crinkled or anything, I really like seeing it because it kind of shows that like your sketchbook's been through a lot. But I'm looking at my sketchbook right now and I can see a whole section where it's like wavy, but now that I'm looking at it, there's a whole section that isn't, and it's been the last few spreads, which I've been doing a lot of either graphite work, pencil crayon work, a mixture of both, or a lot of like marker and pen doodling. So I definitely want to get back into painting or using gouache in the sketchbook, so hopefully next week we'll be able to do that, maybe, if I have the confidence to do so. I think I've been lacking in painting quite a bit. I definitely wanted to get back into watercoloring soon, so I'll definitely do that. Maybe I'll paint Ayato or something. But yeah, okay, back to the spread. I did finish off Fischls. I definitely like the one in the center and the one on the left. The one on the right was just kind of like a last minute filler thing, and I feel like I kind of did that for all 3 of the spreads. So for this one of Albedo, I did the one in the center first and then the one on the right, I think. And then I decided to blow up just a really big portrait, or like a headshot. I think it's a better way to say it, is a headshot of Albedo on the left, just to fill up the space. But yeah, next time maybe I'll do some smaller doodles and we can fill up the space that way. Instead of doing 3 spreads, we can just focus on the one and just go ham with doodling, which is what I usually used to do before, would just fill it up with headshots and stuff. But the full body and the colored spreads have been more of what I've been liking recently, so yeah, I definitely want to get back into graphite. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and don't mind the kind of janky line work for some of these, especially I think the bigger Albedo, the Fischl on the right, and the Gorou on the right are kind of all janky looking. I'm doing my best to give you guys a full shot of all these with a bit of a close-up so you can actually see that Gorou's spread looks very muted compared to Fischl's. I think Fischl's color scheme was my favorite out of all of them. The next would be Albedo's, and then it would probably be Gorou's. I definitely want to attempt this again soon. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time with another video. Bye!